Good morning, everyone. Welcome to LisaBug Yoga. We are in November of 2022, and we are focusing today on hips, both strengthening the hips as well as stretching and releasing tension in the hips through some gentle movement to get started, and then through some deeper held poses. So we'll come down onto our back on your mat to start. Get nice and comfortable. And just starting with the knees bent, the feet flat on the floor, knees bent about 90 degrees. Just relax your shoulders and begin to focus on your breath. So oftentimes it's said in yoga practices that we also carry a lot of internal, mental, and emotional tension in our hips. Sometimes when we're stressed, that moves into tightness in our hips and also in our upper back, our neck, and shoulders. So oftentimes when we have a practice that releases tension in the hips, it really does help our emotional well-being also. So be open to that if that's something that you're needing in your life today. And then we'll separate the feet just a little wider. Maybe explore the width of your mat from side to side. Keep your knees that same width apart. Your arms can be by your side, or you can open your arms out to goalpost arms. And we'll start with windshield wipers. So we drop both knees over to the right. You'll notice your left hip lifts off the mat. You feel a gentle stretch through the left hip flexor. And then slowly move over the other direction. Both knees dropping to the left side. Your right hip lifts up. And then just explore this on your own, noticing how you feel in your hips as well as in your low back. And for me, my quads are really tight. So when I drop over to the side, I really feel a stretch in the front of the lower leg, the one that's coming closer to the floor. So that might be something you feel as well. And these are really gentle to start. Kind of using this as an exploration, a diagnostic tool as to how your hips are feeling today. Hip flexors, maybe even in the knees. Let's take one more to each side. Your shoulders stay firm onto the mat. And then come back to center. Bring the feet closer together. Then pull your knees up toward your chest. Give them a hug right in. Pressing your low back to the mat. And then put your hands right on top of your knees. Your hands are going to guide this egg beater circle for your hips. So we push the knees forward away from our body. Use your hands to separate your knees, but keep your feet together. So it's almost like a butterfly pose. Then pull your knees back toward you and close the knees together. So we push forward, open out, come in, and together. And your feet maintain a connection with one another. Also similar to clamshell. And you'll notice that this requires some bracing of your core when your knees are away. So try not to let your lower back lift off the mat. Keep the abdominals braced. And we'll do one more this direction. Forward, open, in, and close. Then to reverse, while your knees are close to you, you'll open them apart, push them away from you, close in, and pull toward your chest. Open, push away, close, and bring it in. Now I'm kind of doing this as 4 separate movements. but you can also make it really smooth and circular, where you're not pausing after each piece of the egg beater. Keeping your awareness on your breathing and your lower back. And let's take one more this direction. Finishing with the knees in close to the chest. And we'll set the feet back down onto the mat. Take your right knee in toward your chest and then flex your ankle. We'll prepare for a figure 4 stretch, placing the right ankle across the left thigh and slightly open this knee out with a little pressure of your right hand. Now we are going to use our core and our leg muscles to actively move in and out of this figure 4. So you'll use your left leg and push the legs in towards your chest. Feel the stretch in your right glute, and then lower back down until your foot touches the mat. Exhale to push it toward you. Inhale to come down. Arms again can be by your side or maybe in goalpost or extended out like a T. So I'm not using my arms to pull my legs forward. I'm actually using the strength of my lower body and abdominals for this active stretch. And we'll do 2 more. Press it toward you. Lower down. And then the last one will hold. And you can choose to stay here without using your arms, or if you'd like to use them, you can slide your hands around your left hamstring and then pull the legs in a little closer. And we'll take about 5 breaths here slowly for about a 30-second hold. So this is our reclined pigeon pose, a great stretch for the external rotator of the hip, the piriformis, the glutes. And one more slow breath. And then keep that ankle crossed, but set your left foot back down onto the mat. Open your arms out a little bit to brace and drop your knees to the left side. So our goal is to get our right foot to come down and find the floor. That might not happen. You can take a prop, a block underneath your foot, a blanket if you need that, and we'll just hold the stretch. A nice twist through the rib cage. Your head or your gaze can remain up, or you can turn your head to the right, so the opposite direction from the knees. And one more breath here. We'll bring the head back to center. The knees come back up. Then uncross the ankle. Your left knee comes up to the chest. You can pull it in and hug it just for a moment. Flex your left ankle. And then place that ankle across the right thigh. Use your left hand just to slightly press the leg away from you. And then we'll use this bottom leg, the right leg, to push your knees up toward your chest. And then send that right foot back down to the mat. Exhale as your knees come toward you. Inhale to release. So this is known sometimes as a dynamic stretch, where we're doing that with the use of our own muscles, not really the use of gravity, and in a rhythmic manner, slow and controlled. And our goal is to maybe find a little bit more range of motion each time we come in to that stretch. 2 more. And the last one will hold in position either with or without the use of your arms. So you can reach through behind that right hamstring and pull the legs in closer if you'd like a little bit deeper stretch. 5 slow breaths. And just check your body, make sure you're not tensing anywhere. Make sure you're not holding the breath. Move it deeply in and out through the nose. One more breath. And then release the leg. Keep the ankle crossed. Open your arms out to brace your shoulders and drop your knees to the right side and see if your left foot will come down and find the mat. If not, you can tuck a little block underneath there or a blanket. And just to give you a little bit of extra support. Head can turn to the left side. And really enjoy this gentle twist through the midsection. One more breath. Our head comes back to neutral. The knees come back up. Uncross the ankle. Both feet back down to the mat. Readjust your pelvis so everything's nice and neutral on the mat. And then using the strength of your outer thighs will, just like butterfly wings, open your knees out, contracting the muscles, and then close your knees together. And open and close. So if you have pretty open hips, you might be able to bring your knees all the way out to the floor. Some people can do that. Mine are pretty tight, so I get about halfway, and that's kind of it for me. We're not pushing to a painful place, just a nice stretch. And again, this is dynamic in nature, so we're using our own muscles to apply this stretch. A little bit of gravity here as well. And we'll do 2 more repetitions. The last one, we hold in place. Soles of the feet are touching. Knees are open at a comfortable range of motion. And you might be able to apply just a little bit of pressure with your hands. Sometimes I like to use my folded blanket. It has just a little bit of weight to it. And just place that right on the thighs to help release just a little bit deeper into that stretch. This is our Supta Baddha Konasana, reclined bound angle pose. Arms are wherever you want them to be. And we'll take 3 more breaths here. Really softening the hips. And on that last exhalation, we'll close the knees back together. One more time, hug them up into the chest. And we'll come to a seated position, so you can roll yourself forward and back a couple of times, or roll over onto your side and press yourself all the way up to seated. Just find a comfortable cross-legged pose. Just notice your hips here, see how everything's feeling for you. Make sure you're sitting right on top of your sitting bones, so your pelvis is neutral, your spine is nice and long. We'll take a few side bends. So keep the pelvis planted into the floor, side stretch over to one direction, and then the other at a nice rhythmic pace. And make sure you're not rocking from side to side on your hip. You can go further, but our idea is to keep the pelvis planted and to find this range of motion through the side waist. And then a little modification to this. So side stretch first, then reach to the diagonal, come back up, and switch directions to the side, to the diagonal, and up, and switch. Side, diagonal. Really great stretch through the lats, through the lower back. And we'll take one more to each side. And relax down. Change the cross of your ankles. We are creatures of habit, so we always typically do the same cross each time. So it's just good to change that up. And then we'll do a twist to the right and left. So your left arm comes up and across the right knee. Look behind you. And then bring both arms up. The right hand comes across the left knee. Look behind. And just find a gentle rhythmic flow of your rotation. Focusing on sitting up as tall as you can right before you twist. So there's not a lot of compression in your vertebrae as you're rotating. And I like to inhale as I'm transitioning, and then exhale the twist. And one more each side. Finishing with both arms reaching, breathe in. Breathe out, nice chest expansion. Pull your shoulder blades back. And relax the arms. We'll come to the hands and knees to come back into some dynamic hip movement. So we're on all fours. And we'll be focusing on the right hip. So make sure you have some room next to you to the right and left side of your body. We'll extend the right leg straight back. And I'd like for your toes to be pointed down. For just a second, you can look underneath to see your foot. Make sure it's not turning outward. So we want to level off the pelvis, keep the thigh level, scoop the abdominals in, and take your right leg all the way out to the right side, but turn your head and look for it. You should be able to see your foot pretty comfortably here. Make sure it's pointing down. The right side of your waist is shorter than the left side of your waist. You're feeling some work in the right hip. Then we'll pull that leg the opposite direction, so bring it across with the inner thigh. Look for it over your left shoulder. Maybe not seeing this one. There's a further distance for that to follow. Your left waist is shorter than your right waist. Now a little bit quicker in movement, we'll do that 3 more times. To the right side, look for the foot. Pull it across to the left. I'm using my abductors when I take the leg out to the right, and my adductors, adductors, when I'm going to the left. 1 more time each direction. And then bring it directly in the neutral position. Extend your left arm forward, and we've got spinal balance. Now, a couple of choices with this. You can stay with the right leg elongated. You can bend your right knee and push your heel up to the ceiling, squeezing your right glute and opening your right hip flexor. Or if you have the capability to reach back and grab your ankle with your left hand, you can bring this up into a half bow. So we'll just hold here 3 breaths, whichever one that you want today that works best for your practice. They're all beneficial positions. No right or wrong. Finish that last exhalation, and we'll come back to both hands, both knees. Press yourself back to child's pose for a moment. If you need a stretch for your wrists, you can roll them around a couple times. And while you're holding your child's pose, I'm going to change direction because I have my screen next to me and I'm going to hit that with my foot for sure. So now we have the left leg straight back with the flexed foot. You can take a second and look underneath, make sure your foot is directly straight down. Then find your neutral spine, open your leg to the left and look that direction. Now we're going to stay here for a second because I want you to feel your hip working as you're holding that there. And then slowly pull it all the way across to the right. See if you can see it on that side. I can't see it quite. Holding. And then let's move a little bit more rhythmically 3 more times. Looking left. Looking right. Using your abductors, abductor when you're looking left, and your adductors when you're looking to the right. This is also giving us some nice range of motion for our neck in rotation. This is our last one on this side. Then bring that leg right to the neutral point. Take your right hand off the mat, reach it forward. This is your first option to hold. Second option is to bend your knee and push your foot up toward the ceiling. Third option is to carefully reach back, take that ankle, and press it up. So caution on this one, if you're choosing that third choice, is to be careful of your right shoulder here. It's a really big stretch back. And also being careful of your low back. Keep your abdominals braced. One more breath. And then come back to all fours and take your child's pose. Relax. Just check in. Notice how everything's feeling today. And bring your awareness back to your breathing. And then we'll come up to a downward facing dog. I'm going to have my blanket there ready off to the front if I need it. Just hold a nice down dog. What do we feel today in our down dog? Your body's a little different each time you come into these poses, depending on where you're tight today, where you're free. So just notice and make adjustments so that this is comfortable for you. 2 more breaths. The last breath in, exhale all the way out. And then I want you to step forward with whichever foot gets your body to be facing front the long way of your mat. So for me, it was my right foot, but for you, it might be different. So I want you in a nice wide leg stretch with your head toward me, and hold this nice forward fold. Getting some stretch through the hips here, depending on how open your legs are. Definitely a stretch through your hamstrings. Your feet are fairly parallel to the sides. They can have a slight turnout. Use your block if you need to support your hands. We'll take 2 more breaths. And then you can either roll your spine up or keep a neutral spine. Maybe bring your hands to your hips and pull yourself directly up all in one piece. And then we'll turn this side foot out. I'm going to call it the right side since facing the camera, that probably is for you. We'll open this knee out and feel this hip opening here into Warrior Two. Stretch the fingertips nice and long. And try to activate the quad and the glute on the straight leg side. So really squeeze these muscles here in the thigh. And then we'll take a side angle pose. So your right elbow or forearm comes down to brace on the thigh. The left arm can reach straight up to the ceiling. It can come closer to your ear for a little bit bigger stretch. Or you can just bring that hand to your hip or even wrap it behind your back. So choose the best position for your shoulder. We'll hold and breathe. So for our hips, we're getting this stretch right here through that right hip flexor area as we're in an open hip pose. The further our body is down, more of a glute stretch. So some of you might be able to come down and find the floor or find your block. So it's up to you how low you take this stretch. Let's hold a couple more breaths. And we'll transition this direction to put the hands down, but we're going to put them both to the inside of your front leg. You might have to heel toe your foot out a little wider. Your back knee can stay off the mat or you can set it down. And I want you to explore how much you can stretch down in this position. So we're stretching the hip flexor of the back leg, the glute of the front leg. Maybe we can come down onto our elbows, onto a block. We'll just stay here for several breaths, stretching wherever you can in this pose. Another wonderful variation, one that's really hard for me, is to stretch the back leg quadricep. I've got to get a little blanket under my knee there. So you can bring this heel toward the glute, pull it in while you're holding your stretch, which is really challenging for me with my quads super tight. But probably something I need to do, right? Yes. Eleanor Roosevelt said, "We must do the thing we think we cannot." And sometimes we say, I can't do that. But maybe we have to raise the bar a little bit and give it a try. Let's take one more breath here. If you've got that back ankle, release it. So everybody's kind of in a little bit different position. So I want you to find the best way to come back into that wide leg forward fold. So I'm going to tuck my toe under and then just walk my hands around to the middle. But if you need to stand up and readjust, anything that you need to do to get there. And we'll spend a couple of breaths there relaxing. Maybe it's not relaxing to you. That might be the wrong word to use. But stretching. And then either rolling up or coming up with a neutral spine all the way. To stack shoulders over hips, we'll turn this foot out, bend the knee, drop down into your Warrior Two, any distance that you can drop. And then really check this back leg. Sometimes we forget about this one. We're thinking about this one. So squeeze your glute, tighten your thigh muscles. Keep this hip open so it's tracking toward the little toe side of your foot. Try not to let your knee go this way. Pull it back. And then come into your side angle. We'll bring the elbow down. The other hand can come straight up. Can come by your ear and really reach. Or you can bring it to your hip or behind your back. Now reconnect with your breathing. Sometimes when we hold something still, our breath tends to retain as well. So keep that breath moving. Maybe you can come down a little deeper here with this. Wherever you can take it, we'll take 3 more breaths. Oh, I wish I could see all your beautiful poses there. All right. So we'll start to transition to turn this direction. Both hands will come to the middle. You might have to walk your front leg wider. Back knee can come down, or you can leave it up. And then let's explore our range of motion here on this stretch. Can your elbows come down a little bit? And this could be entirely different for you on this side for whatever reason. I know at least one person that's online with me today has had hip replacements, so that might dictate range of motion. Okay, so maybe we can reach back, grab that ankle. I'm going to give it a try because I know I need it. It's not as comfortable, but I'm going to give it a go. Holding for just a few more breaths. And then again, releasing, and then find the best way for you to come back to that wide leg stretch. So I'm going to tuck my toes under, lift the knee up, and turn my body toward the middle. And take that stretch one more time. 3 times is a charm, so maybe you can come down a little deeper this 3rd time. Two more breaths. So what I want to do is be able to bring your feet closer together. I'm going to show you a fancy way. You might not want to try it today. Place your weight in your hands, stabilize your shoulders, bend your knees, and jump your feet together. Or you can heel toe, walk your feet, and come up. Did you try the jump? Kind of fun. So let's come to a stand. Our balance pose today is tree because it's a wonderful hip opener. So our right leg will be our grounding leg first. So I want you to spread your toes a little bit on your right foot and slightly grip the earth with your toes. And then let this left knee open at whatever flexibility you have. Mine's not that great. So my knee is more off at a 45-degree angle to keep my pelvis square. Your big toe can stay on the floor, or you can bring that foot to your ankle. A little further up, just be careful not to place it on the knee. You can come all the way up to the thigh if that feels comfortable for you to hold it there. I like to stay right about on that lower shin. Hands can be at heart center. You can use your arms for balance and hold them out, or reach them up. And then what I want you to notice is the muscle of your left glute behind you, keeping that knee open, pulling it to the back, the muscles of your core to brace through the midsection, and finding something to gaze on. And let's hold here 3 more breaths. If you step out of the pose, go ahead and come back in. more breath. And then release that foot down to the floor. Relax your shoulders, relax any tension you had in the upper body. And then we'll ground this left foot into the floor. Sometimes if you slightly turn it out a little bit, that does help your base of support. And we'll lift the right knee up and rotate it out just to see where your range of motion is on this side. And then decide where you want to put the foot and your arms. Notice if this side is a little bit better. I do feel more solid on this side, but it's really interesting because this is usually not my good side. So some days are a little different. So wherever you are, let's hold about 3 more breaths. Keep using that right glute to pull the knee open. And then release back down to come to a nice strong mountain pose. Arms can be by your side, palms turned forward, feet can be close together or hips distance. We'll inhale to bring the arms back. Exhale to bring them forward and sit into chair. And arms can be as high as you feel comfortable here, depending on your shoulders. Inhale to bring the arms back. Squeeze your shoulder blades. Exhale to chair. So chair is really a squat. It's exactly what it is in our Western weight training terminology. And a squat is one of the most functional exercises we can do. Keeps our hips strong, our quads strong, helps us to be able to get up and down from the floor, in and out of a chair, in and out of the car with grace and ease. All things that we want to be able to do for the rest of our life. Let's take 3 more. The arms pulling back helps us to work posture. 1 more. And this one will hold. Nice and steady. Isometric work to strengthen the legs. So you can keep both your heels down on the floor. Next option is to pull the right heel up. Set it down. Pull the left heel up. Set it down. Next option, stay low into your chair. Pick the right foot up. Set it down. Pick the left foot up and set it down. Your arm position can change if this is helpful. So you're either just lifting the heel or you're lifting the foot. And notice my head isn't rising and falling. Imagine you have a little book right on the top of your head. Keep shifting from side to side. Really working on strengthening. 2 more each leg. Your foot doesn't have to come up high, just maybe an inch. 1 more each leg. Keep your abs really braced. Then hold your chair pose and see if you can come down a little more. 10 seconds. And press back up. Pull your arms back for posture. And then release your arms by your side. Take a nice circle sweep. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, swan dive into your forward fold. Hold a little stretch there for your hamstrings. Hands can go on a block or a chair. 3 more breaths. And then take your time any way that works best for you to come back down onto your back. So if you want, you can turn to the side, roll over onto a side. And one of the best strengthening exercises for our hips is bridge pose. So we're back where we started our practice. Feet on the floor, about hips distance apart. And then notice your spine being neutral on the mat. And today our bridge pose is not a back bend. So I'm not looking for really lifting my hips up high and arching my back. All I'm looking for is hip extension and glute engagement. So we're going to keep a neutral spine and just lift our hips up all in one unit, only just a few inches off the floor, and then come down. So I want you to explore your range of motion by actively lifting and lowering. And with each one, maybe you can come up a little more. But again, I'm not looking for a back bend. So I'm just looking for this hip extension. So the backs of the legs, the glutes and the hamstrings are lifting the hips up, strengthening those muscles, the glutes, really working on the hips. Let's exhale when we lift. Inhale to lower. One more. Then come up and hold, just a comfortable range of motion. If you need to walk your feet in a little closer to your body, you can do that, because we are going to do the same thing we did in chair pose, which is option 1, lift your right heel off the mat, set it down, lift your left heel off the mat, set it down. So that's your first variation, alternate heel lifts. Second variation is to lift your whole right foot off the floor a couple of inches, set it down, then your left foot. I call this a marching bridge. Try not to use your hands too much on the ground. So you're really using your core here to stay stable. You're working your glutes and hamstrings, muscles around the hip, as we either lift opposite heels or march the legs. And you can lift that leg any height. Maybe you want to bring it all the way up here, that's fine. Or just an inch or 2 off the floor. Let's do 2 more on each leg. If you need to go back to lifting just the heels, that's okay. That's where your body is today. Last time you do the left leg, just hold that bridge. See if you can lift your hips up just a little taller. And we'll stay here 3 breaths. And then all at one time, set the back down to the floor. We'll hug our right knee into our chest. It's always really good to stretch out the hamstrings after bridge. So we can extend that right leg up. You can use your yoga strap if you have that close by. Just place it under the bottom of the ball of the foot, extend it up. Giving yourself enough space in that strap to get your legs straight. Your left leg can extend straight down. And let's just hold here for a few breaths. So if you're really tight, yours might look a little bit more like this to be able to get your leg totally straight, and that's okay. That's why we have the strap, so that you can go to your range of flexibility. And then we're going to stretch our hip 2 different directions. The first is in abduction. So we are going to guide that leg out to the side toward the right. You can place your left arm out to kind of counterbalance your body so you don't rock over. And we'll hold this one 3 breaths. Slowly come back to the midline for 3 breaths. Maybe you can deepen this just slightly. And then we'll pull that leg slightly across the midline for 3 breaths. And it's not a twist, so it's just the leg going across. This one really gets me. That IT band is super tight. So I don't have to go very far to feel this. 3 breaths here. And then back to the center to finish our last 3 breaths on this leg. And then slowly release. Bring that foot back down. We'll take the left leg up. If you don't have a strap, just hold it wherever you feel comfortable. And then find your range of motion on the left side. Just notice where it is today. We can drop the right leg all the way down to straight, which is nice because it releases this right hip flexor. And just relax as best as you can. Now, we've kind of had this conversation before, but just a reminder, if your leg starts to shake, it means that you've set off a stretch reflex response. So we want to definitely stop, take a break from it if it's shaking, and then slowly come back, maybe not as deep, and see if you can get that to stop for you. Okay, let's take it out to the left side as far as you feel comfortable to open the hip, stretching the adductors. 3 breaths here. And these are slow breaths, really controlled. Back to the middle for 3. It should take you at least 15 seconds to take those 3 breaths. And when you're ready, let's go across just slightly. And once you find your range of motion, stay. 3 breaths. Back to the midline. Deepen it to your full range of motion. Find your edge. Last 3 breaths. And then release that leg. So I want to stretch the hips one more time for pigeon. We did it briefly at the beginning of class. If you like figure 4 stretch, then you are going to stay here on your back and you're going to stretch each side for 2 minutes. If you're a person who likes pigeon, then I want you to go ahead and roll over. Bring yourself so where you can do pigeon pose, and I always like to have a blanket for that. So we'll start with the right leg forward first, and if you're in pigeon, your right ankle comes across your body a bit, and then take it down to wherever you feel that stretch, and we'll hold. I'm going to start a timer on my watch here. So we definitely get a solid 2 minutes in the stretch of choice. And really try to slow your breathing down. Try to relax everything in your body as much as possible, so you can deeply release the hips, any physical tension there, any mental tension, any emotional tension as well. And stay really mindful in the pose rather than drifting off to a different place. Be keenly aware of your physical body. So if you're feeling anything that says it's time to get out of the pose or to make an adjustment, that you are listening to your body. You have 45 seconds. If you're here with me later on YouTube and you want to just pause your video and hold it longer, feel free to do that. This is one of those poses that we can hold for a long period of time to really make it a yin pose and get deep into the connective tissue as well as the muscle. 15 seconds remaining, maybe 3 more slow breaths. And prepare to exit the pose and choose any kind of movement that you would like before we switch sides. So from pigeon, sometimes a down dog is nice and kind of pedaling out the feet. If you're laying on your back for your figure 4 stretch, you can do some windshield wipers that we started with in class. And then take your time to find your pose on the other side. Left side. So if you're on your back, the left ankle crosses over your right thigh. If you're in pigeon, that left knee comes forward and the ankle moves slightly out to the side, any amount. And I'm beginning our 2 minutes now. So we have to really pay attention to discomfort that we feel in our body and know the difference between a quote good discomfort and a quote bad discomfort. We don't want to push through pain, but I am feeling a very, very deep stretch here. But knowing my body, it's a quote good discomfort. Make sure it's something that doesn't involve any joints. So sometimes in pigeon pose, we can twist our knee. We don't want to feel any pain in our knee joint. It's always okay to modify these and to come out of it sooner. And we have 45 seconds. I'm really quite surprised because I usually cannot do this depth of pigeon pose, and I really do feel that everything we did prior in class really did release the muscle and the tissue for me in a positive way to allow me to stretch to this depth that I typically cannot. So it's a nice representation of the benefits of what we did prior in class. All right, 5 seconds. So we're preparing to find movement again. And when you're ready, make your way out of the pose. If you're on your back, you can do some windshield wipers. If you're in pigeon, again, down dog is nice. Piddling out the feet, or maybe just a child's pose, but try to move around a little bit. Getting that blood flow unstuck from the muscle, sending it back down the legs. And then if you're on your back, you can stay there. We'll take just a couple of minutes in meditation. You can roll over onto your back, or you can even come to a comfortable seat for a couple of minutes of quiet. So make sure you're comfortable. Clear your thoughts, except for the breath. And just scan your body from head to toe briefly, just to see if there's any areas you're holding on to tension. And just surrender and let go. Soften the muscles as we also soften the mind. You can remain here for as long as you like in quiet meditation. Or we can prepare to close our practice in a seated position together. We'll take a final breath, sweeping the arms out and up. Allow the palms to press at heart center. As we take a moment to express our honor and our gratitude for this opportunity to practice virtually together as a community. And the light and joy that reside within me, honor the light and joy in each of you. Namaste. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me and being a constant for me with LisaBug classes. I appreciate it so very much. I'll take our recording down, and if you can stay for a couple minutes, I'd love to chat and see how those hips are feeling today. If not, I'll see you next week. Have a wonderful day.